Okay, first one. Got Herald of the Sun, Holy, and Retribution. Is that like full size? There you go. Ooh, damn. That's bigger than I thought. Okay. So the Holy and Retribution Paladin hero tree starts with Sunspot as our main ability. Let's see. So Holy Prism causes the next two Holy Power spending abilities to create Sunspot on target. Interesting. Okay, and then Wake of Ashes does the same for Retribution. And then for both of them, 10% of Sunspot's damage and healing radiates to nearby allies or enemies, reduced beyond 5 targets. So, it's more AoE damage. Another AoE dot. Am I reading that right? Yeah, so just doing radiant damage and healing as well, but I mean that sounds cool. Just puts out another dot on our targets. So, actually, we've got a choice node here for Morningstar. Every 5 seconds, your next Sunspot's damage or healing is increased by 5%, stacking up to 10 times. Okay, so that's when it's not active. And then Morningstar stacks twice as fast while out of combat. So every 2.5 seconds. So to get full 10 stacks, that would be every 50 seconds. And for us, for Wake of Ashes, is that 30-second cooldown? Interesting. You need to hold on to it for a little bit. Right? I'm not making that up, right? Wake of Ashes. Not mixing it up. That's not what I want. Where's just the ability? Let's go back. Yeah, 30-second cooldown. So you would need to hold on to it in almost twice as long as the cooldown to get full effect of that in combat. Out of combat, yeah, out of combat it would work. I could see maybe for raid when you've got more time between fights, but in keys you gotta be in combat most of that time. Anyway, the other choice, Gleaming Rays, while Sunspot is active, your Holy Power spenders deal 10% increased additional damage or healing. See, that I feel like is a better choice for Mythic Plus. So for 8 seconds after using Wake of Ashes, essentially, all your Holy Power spenders do an additional 10%. It's like so much of the Retribution tree is buffing the Holy Power spenders. And it's just another buff, another 10% increased damage. Yeah, let's just go down each side. So down, next choice on the left, got Illumine. Illumine? Is that even actually a word? Sunspots reduce the movement speed of enemies by 50%, increase the movement speed of allies by 20%. Okay. But I'm assuming that's only if the sunspot is like specifically on them, not just generally. Yeah, so it's one or the either, really. Um I suppose that could be useful at times, having the slowdown. If you're doing Spiteful or something, dealing with Spiteful. Will of the Dawn. Movement speed increased by 5% while above 80% health. When your health is brought below 35%, your movement speed is increased by 40% for 5 seconds. Cannot occur more than once every 60 seconds. Yeah, I think it would end up going with the second one. So that just radiates 2 nearby allies or enemies. I'm curious if that essentially is like putting an effect on the near ones, or is just the healing goes to them and damage. And if it's one or the other depending on what the original target is. Because if we are using Wake of Ashes and it goes on to the enemy and it doesn't radiate towards allies because it's on an enemy, then we won't get this movement speed buff. But if it radiates to everybody and it counts as a sunspot on others, then that could. But I don't think that's the case. So I would end up going with that one. And Aurora. For Holy, after you cast Holy Prism, gain Divine Purpose. Retribution, after you cast Wake of Ashes, gain Divine Purpose. So that's pretty straightforward. Where are we at? Divine Purpose. Let's just look at our tree, which actually this isn't necessarily my build. There we are. Wrong one. That's what I want. I don't remember if that's in my build. I should. So, interesting. If you gain Divine Purpose, does that count if you don't have the talent? Because Holy Power abilities have 10% chance to make your next Holy Power ability free and deal 10% increased damage and healing. That would be nice if it's like doesn't require you to talent into it, because then that would be kind of annoying that it's forcing like a specific route. But we'll see. Alright, down the middle, Eternal Flame replaces Word of Glory. Interesting. Heals an ally immediately and over an additional 20 seconds. So it's like a Druid's Regrowth. And then healing increased by 25% when cast on self. So, I wonder if Healing Hands affects that. Specifically, so Word of Glory's healing is increased by up to 100% based on the target's missing health. If it's no longer Word of Glory, I'm assuming that does not apply, which would free up the talent point to put into Divine Purpose. But that will be interesting. Word of Glory has definitely been like a emergency button I've been able to hit on just allies to help out healers. I'm curious how much that immediate heal is for. If it's too much reduced, that may be kind of annoying. But having the additional 20 seconds of healing is nice, if it's enough. Anyway, next one. Eternal Sun. Sunspot's duration is increased by 2 seconds, and Eternal Flame's duration is increased by 3 seconds. Okay, so that would make this heal 23 seconds. And then it would make this 10 seconds, which would mean our Holy Power buff would be an extra 10 seconds. That's kind of cool. Lingering Radiance. Let me zoom in a little bit more. Sunspots leave an Eternal Flame for 12 seconds on allies or a greater judgment on enemies when they expire or are extended. Okay. That's interesting because Greater Judgment is doing a similar thing. Greater Judgment. Why can I not think of where Greater Judgment is? There we go. Yeah, so it causes the target to take 20% increased damage for your next Holy Power ability. Fair enough. Okay, so it's only for the next one. But that is still nice. Then our judgment uptime should be pretty high anyway, but it's not bad. Especially, like I was saying, if that like affected ones that count as having this one spot. Interesting. I'm not actually sure. Like, if there were changes to judgment and it was a little bit tougher to keep uptime, then I would say for sure we'd take this. But especially if they, well, I would assume it's, yeah, stacks up a different effect. This could be real nice, and having those extra 2 seconds could be an extra Holy Power spender used in there. For Solar Grace, your haste is increased by 4% for 12 seconds each time you apply a sunspot. Multiple stacks may overlap. Okay. You know, interesting. So, it says multiple stacks may overlap. We already went over Wake of Ashes, a 30-second cooldown, so that'd be applying this once every 30 seconds. And it only lasts for 10 seconds if you use this. But if it can overlap, how would that be possible with a 30-second cooldown? So, actually also, on your target... Man, now I'm going in circles. So, Wake of Ashes is an AoE. Is it only on the person you have targeted? Or does it apply to everybody who's hit by Wake of Ashes? Still doesn't adjust the multiple stacks, but I'm assuming somewhere else in the tree, I don't want to look ahead, but I'm assuming somewhere else that you'll be able to apply more somehow. Interesting. But that haste buff, though, depending on how much we can get us to stack, that could be quite insane. Interesting. Luminosity, critical strike chance of Holy Shock and Light excuse me, Light of Dawn increased by 10%. Okay. So Retribution, Critical Strike of Hammer of Wrath, and Divine Storm increased by 10%. Not bad. We are already always going to crit with Hammer of Wrath. So, okay. But Divine Storm, I'll take the extra crit there. Sure. Sunseer. Oh, and those are all the choice notes. Okay, so everything else here is just given. Sunseer, Holy Shock, Line of Dawn, Critical Strike. Also, the target to burn for additional radiant damage over 4 seconds or be healed for 4 seconds. Okay, cool. For Hammer of Wrath and Divine Storm, critical strikes cause the target to burn for additional radiant damage over 4 seconds. Jeez. We're just going heavy on damage over time. Like, even heavier. I was going to say I wonder if that applies to both casts of Divine Storm, but that's our tier set, so that wouldn't matter anyway. By then, we won't be in that tier. Long before then. But that could be cool. Hammer of Wrath, we're already... again, always going to Critical Strike if we keep the same talents. And then... I wonder if... So, we're also talented... I'm not going to try to find the talent right now. To hit up to 5 targets with Hammer of Wrath. So that's just immediately putting out 5 dots. That's cool. Okay, Holy Strike. I was thinking that I keep seeing radiant damage. Couldn't remember. And I wish there was a better look. Here, let's... Yeah, let's do this. Still does it. Flashbang. Okay, this is a bit easier to look at. Yeah, I wonder. So I'm wondering right now also if the extra 10% would be enough to drop the guaranteed crit, but it doesn't seem like it would be a good idea. Anyway, second sunrise. Holy... I have a chance at a second cast, okay. Retribution, Hammer of Wrath, and Divine Storm have a 15% chance to cast again at 30% effectiveness. Okay, so that's similar to our current tier set bonus. So again, I wonder if this radiant damage would apply to the second cast. I'm assuming so. And then again, it would be at 30%. But I guess I potentially just re-up the dot at hopefully full effectiveness. Or else it's just a second cast of it, which would be okay. That'd be current, just minus the dot. Alright, so Sun's Avatar. During Avenging Wrath, ooh, okay. A little burst window ability, or talent. You become linked to your sunspots, causing radiant damage to enemies or healing to allies that pass through the beams. Reduced beyond 5 targets. Makes me think of, oh shoot, I'm forgetting the name. The left side boss on Atal Desire. That could look cool. I'm assuming the allies would be able to see it, which could add clutter to screens. But then, sorry, the second part of it, activating Avenging Wrath applies 4 sunspots onto nearby allies or enemies and increases sunspots damage and healing by 20%. So onto nearby allies or enemies. I wonder if that is just determined by if you're in Holy or Ret, or does it target for random? Because then also, and it increases the damage. That's pretty nice. I wonder if it's smart enough to avoid any already existing sunspot. So essentially, you could have 5 up at a time, which would then give you a 40% haste buff on top of your Avenging Wrath, which so you got Avenging Wrath and then your greater. So that would increase your damage, healing, and crit, obviously, as we already know. Damn, that could be a huge burst window, especially if you, like, as you should time that with with Bloodlust. And then if you have any other like a haste trinket, I wonder at what point it's gonna start like being diminishing, or if it's gonna help. Like, this could be a huge burst window, and like especially of all those applications stack, which I'm assuming, because that's the only way that I remember seeing it saying it would stack, or sorry, that it would apply multiple. I also wonder, so causing radiant damage to enemies or healing to allies that pass through the beams. So think of Nimue in the raid. If you're standing on the beam, it just constantly recasts. Will it be like that, where you just position yourself so that you have as many enemies through the beams as possible? or does it only count like, every so often? Or is it like I'm just picturing that it doesn't keep reapplying or like reticking, but you can get it as fast as possible. You just start running circles around the group just to damage all of them. I wonder. Yeah, that'll be very interesting to see how that works. Overall, it's pretty cool though. Be very interested indeed. Certainly in seeing how this works compared to Word of Glory. Sorry. I'm looking forward to actually trying that out.